we'll move on to the next paper, Sri Sunil Kumar ji, Gaudiya Vaishnavism and Rediscovery of Vṛndāvana.
Yeah, नमो नमः सर्वेभ्य एंड मैं सबसे पहले सादर आभार व्यक्त करना चाहता हूं इंडिका डॉक्टर नागराज जी और श्रीनिवास जी का अवसर प्रदान करने के लिए और इस शोध पत्र के माध्यम से जिज्ञासा पूर्ति का साधन बनने के लिए इस विषय में बचपन से और इस संप्रदाय के प्रति आसक्ति थी और इस तौर पे मैंने थोड़ा गहन रूप में अध्ययन कर लिया और हमारे देश की सारी भाषाएं माँ भारती की संतानें हैं तो सबके प्रति सादर नमन। आंग्ल भाषा कृते अपि कोपि द्वेषः नास्ति। तो विदाउट वेस्टिंग एनी फर्दर टाइम I'll start with my presentation. ओम अज्ञान तिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जन शलाकया चक्षुर उन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. So humble obeisances to the learned gurus of every tradition. My sincere thanks to Indica for this opportunity and namaste everyone. My topic today is Gaudiya Vaishnavism and the rediscovery of Vṛndāvana. So after a playful presentation by Bharti ji and a Krishna Prem suffused presentation by Jatayu ji, my topic moves further to the east and the north. So roughly this is going to be the way my presentation flows. There's going to be a brief introduction to the topic and how it contributes to the overall Vaishnava study sphere and dialectic. Historical overview of the town over millennia, basically the destruction, rediscovery and growth. As Bharti ji mentioned, it's like a Nitya Vṛndāvana Dham, so it's never destroyed, but say I am looking at it on a more material mundane level. हम तो केवल प्रभु के निमित्त मात्र हैं, इसलिए शायद श्रीरंगम धाम आने का भी अवसर मिला और वृंदावन धाम के बारे में कुछ थोड़ी बहुत व्याख्या कर रहा हूं. और some observations by foreign travelers in the medieval period and the early colonial era, Gaudiya Vaishnava practices, the decline, and their biggest claim to fame in the modern era is obviously Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, or his material name was Abhay Charan De, and his most famous global movement ISKCON. And there will be some discussion on limitations, conclusions, and my ideas on future growth. So what's new in my presentation? It's actually been studied in great depth, courtesy ISKCON. So all I wanted to add was, it's a well-known fact that Vṛndāvana is integral to the Gaudiya Vaishnava identity, and the rediscovery of Vṛndāvana by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was integral to the evolution of the Bengali or the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and the Pancham Purusharth, which the Gaudiya Vaishnavas repeatedly refer to, transcends the more commonplace discussion of the four Purusharthas. And along the way in my paper I have briefly touched on say Indological narratives that are firmly placed in the Western worldview, and environmentalism, which has been mentioned, and a fellow speaker here who was attributing it to a postmodern critique of fitting. And basically, Prabhupada's corpus is, I think, to the greatest degree available online. So, in a modern technological perspective, the impact of the spread of the movement and the evolution of the sampradaya can be studied on in greater depth. That is one point I'd like to make in my humble opinion. And contemporary growth and internationalization, as this is one of the most widely spread Vaishnava sampradayas. So I'll briefly go through, skip through some part of this, because I guess the learned audience knows most of these aspects, and it's basically an overview of the 6 darshanas which I've touched on in my paper, and how the Vaishnava sampradayas largely, as mentioned in response to Adi Shankara, came up with their own respective ontological frameworks for explaining the cosmos. So this is obviously a Gaudiya Vaishnava interpretation of the more Vaishnava Sampradaya evolution construct, because Krishna is central to everything here. So from Krishna everything emanates. And I have briefly mentioned about the Rudra Sampradaya. Vallabhacharya, there have been excellent presentations about the path of grace, anugrah, whatever. And since we are close to the hotbed of the tradition, I don't think I need to go into any great depth about Ramanuja Acharya or Nimbaka Acharya as well. And basically, I'll come to a point, I think Nimbarka Acharya had more of an effect on Chaitanya's beliefs. However, Chaitanya himself mentioned that he had, he had taken the good points from practically every sampradaya, and the only thing he wanted to bring new to the world is Krishna Prem. Krishna Prema Pradayate is the most compassionate, munificent avatar, which is what the Gaudiyas believe. And the concept of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, inconceivable oneness and difference, I think that also has been touched on. There have been courtesy Prabhupada and ISKCON, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas are globally famous, and from the time of Baladeva Vidyabhushan itself, what I've read is the original Goswamis were so infused with the Krishna Prema that they never considered as in originating a new sampradaya. But when the Maharaja of Jaipur called Baladeva Vidyabhushan, so to gain some sort of legitimacy in the Vaishnavite world, they say that they are in the lineage of Madhavacharya, Purna Prajna or Ananda Thirtha, and there have been some debates on this aspect which I'll not go into, but this is what I'd like to mention. And according to Gaudiya Vaishnava beliefs, the supreme truth is manifest in the Brahman Param. I'll skip a few parts here, and so we move on to the Vṛndāvana and the Chaitanya connect. So basically, I'll skip over a large part of this as well, because Vraja was ravaged by numerous Islamic invasions, right from Mahmud of Ghazni down to Firoz Shah Tughlaq and the Lodhis, and around 1513 to 1515 is what the hagiographic account, the Chaitanya Charitamrit tells us that when Sikandar Lodhi was ruling Delhi, Chaitanya visited there, and his instructions to the 6 Goswamis of Vṛndāvana that the Sambandh, Prayojana and Abhideya should be Krishna was majorly responsible for defining the contours of present day Vṛndāvana and the construction of many famous temples. So help was forthcoming from local rulers apart from the Rajputs and the ruling Delhi elite, which was largely Akbar, until the iconoclastic Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb. Despite this, Vṛndāvana continued to flourish despite repeated attacks. It was rebuilt, and British India had not decreased the significance of the place, but it was a relatively minor town, firmly in the grip of a regional orthodoxy. So evolutionary history as such, I've classified into, say, pre-colonial, the colonial era and the post-colonial era. And I've already mentioned this, and Narayana Bhatta Goswami in his Vraj Bhakti Vilas assisted Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami in unearthing more lost places. So this is basically the circumference of the 84 Kos Yatra. I recently asked Dr. Rana P.V. Singh, who has conducted a lot of research in this area. So he mentioned that the numerological significance of 84 or 84 is the liberation from the 84 lakh yonis. And I've already mentioned this, and in the most exalted Gaudiya Vaishnava belief, you have to be transcendental associates of Krishna in his Vraja Leela, because the other sampradayas are not that focused on his Vraja Leela in comparison to his, say, his later stay in Mathura or Dwarka also has equal significance. So this is basically a pictorial representation of the Panchatattva, which was given by, as in, it is supposed to have originated with Swarup Damodar Dasji. And Nityananda was elder to Krishna, and in their beliefs, he is supposed to be Balaram, and Chaitanya, who was Vishwambara Mishra, his father and mother are supposed to be Nanda and Yashoda, and Advaita Acharya is in an incarnation of Krishna's Maha Vishnu expansion. So these are a few artistic depictions of Nitya Vṛndāvana Dham or Golok Vṛndāvana, which in the Gaudiya belief transcends Vaikuntha also. So there's a spiritual world, the unseen world, which is of a greater dimension than the material universe, and what in other mostly Vaishnavite sampradayas, Vaikuntha is the Paramalok, but here Golok Vṛndāvana transcends everything. So this I'll just breeze through. Okay. So this was basically Bhakti Vinod Thakur and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati in the 19th to 20th centuries. This has recently been rebuilt in Kolkata. This was the place where Srila Prabhupada met his Guru Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati for the first time in 1922. And basically the growth of ISKCON can be attributed large part to Prabhupada's stay in from 54 to 65, And this is what Prabhupada is stressing on the centrality of Vṛndāvana in the Gaudiya tradition, and how people generally have a touristy perspective whenever they go to Vṛndāvana, but it is the manifestation of the Nitya Vṛndāvana in the spiritual world. So basically I have touched on the Prema Purushartha and other aspects, and finally my conclusions from the whole thing is recent developments in the 21st century, including the growth of Gaudiya Vaishnava communities in India and the West, as well as ongoing efforts to preserve and promote the cultural heritage of Vṛndāvana, need more attention. We are aware, so this is on a lighter note, this is the modern Goswami, omnipresent breaking India forces that subsume understanding to a conformist construct, which is devoid of seriousness, combined with insufficient knowledge, needs to be further studied, analyzed and rectified from a dharmic index standpoint. Recently we all know of Musk, who tweeted on India's population growth as in demographics is destiny. So what kind of demographics are we looking at? That is a contentious question. And the daily tirade against core belief systems and in the name of so-called woke liberalism has also led to insufficient awareness and deliberate misinterpretations of the past. Also a lack of effort on our part. And I have finally to conclude, the ISKCON Chandrodaya temple in Vṛndāvana, there is already Prema Mandir of Jagadguru Kripalu Maharaj, whose earlier presentation was built in 2012, and this is going to be the tallest religious structures in the world. So what I want to stress on is the changing construct here. So it has to be analyzed from both a traditionalist standpoint, and there has to be some degree of contemporary thinking brought in. And finally, to finish it off, I'd like to say utopian appeal of returning to a Vedic golden age is fraught with multiple real world constraints and challenges, and I'd like to thank Indica and end with this message from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Bharata Bhumite Haile Manushya Janma Yara Janma Sarthak Kari Karo Paropakara. Dhanyavad. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.